DayZ is a big game, and for every one thing you see, there are 10 that you don't. So here I'm going to give you 14 things DayZ doesn't tell you, but that you should definitely know. If you like the video, please leave a like or a subscribe. It really helps me out. You have no idea. But without further ado, let's get into the video. You messed with the wrong sir, bear. And now you're a handbag. Starting off, your stomach has 1,000 points of storage, which means you can contain up to 1,000 points of food or water before vomiting. This is good to know because it means you can either have 2 bottles of water, 2 canteens, or 1 pot in a single sitting without throwing up. Next is you can usually cure an early cold with heat buffs such as that from a fire without the use of medication, saving you a lot of time and significant hassle. Next, if you don't have a bandage, wounds will heal on their own after a few minutes, but beware because you can get an infection if they heal this way, and also you'll lose a lot more blood. Moving on, there's loot at the top of things like dock cranes, and this is true for all maps. People usually skip them, especially when they're a freshie, but you shouldn't because you can get rangefinders and all kinds. Since patch 126, loot is map specific, with some items only spawning on certain maps, but you can transfer them over if you're on official servers. Wolf and bear meat will make you ill, but if you cook it, there is a 40% chance it won't. But is that worth the risk? When it rains or snows, you don't just have to stay indoors to avoid getting wet. Instead, you can either use the canopies of the trees, or you can even walk alongside the building. As the wind blows it, you'll see the dry patch you can walk through. If you're trying to dry clothing, don't just sit next to a fire. It is way quicker if you can get them as close to the fire as possible by removing them. And speaking of temperature, instead of building a fire every few minutes to defrost food that you find which is frozen, just keep it on your person for a while and eventually it should defrost on its own. It's especially quick to defrost things like vegetables and fruit. This is all related to something else it doesn't tell you, which is each map, not just Sakal, has their own individual temperatures that change depending on summer or winter. This is important to know because I've seen so many people get ill because they're not dressing appropriately, thinking that a map is hotter when it isn't. Next is, regardless of whether it's night or day, if you see a red light in the sky, specifically a flare, it means a gas strike is about to happen and you need to vacate the area immediately. Next up, you don't have to run all the way to a pond or to the sea to wash your hands, and you don't even have to use bottles. You can actually use troughs. If you ever need to wash your hands, head to the nearest farm. There's usually one here. Yes, you can drink from it. No, I don't recommend it unless you treat it first. The best way to stop your gun jamming is by keeping it in good condition, and you can do this by using a weapon cleaning kit. I thought this was a really simple one, but then I've had so many players ask me how to reduce the chance of jamming during PvP. Next up, if you build a base and you don't want to risk running all the way to the nearest town or city to use the well and risk suffering lead poisoning, then one of the best ways to tackle this is by getting a barrel and leaving it open in your base during the rain. The barrel will collect the rainwater even when you're offline, allowing you a safe continual supply of water. But for some tips that will absolutely change your game, click here, or for something else, click here. And as always, until next time.